Alert and warned, my buddies. The episode today will increase suspense and brutality levels. But believe me, you will have fun and explore events you will not have heard about before. Today, my friend, you will hear the most compelling narrative you have ever come across regarding a serial murderer who carried out an absolutely awful crime beyond anything else you have ever heard about. Welcome, sweetie. If you enjoy this kind of material, sign up for my channel. I offer real stories. You are with the butcher right now? Two corpses were discovered in the Green River on August 15th, 1982. The police were notified. One of the investigators froze in place as the cops showed up at the spot and started looking down the river for any evidence that may assist with the investigation. Something startled him. In front of him, he discovered a third victim slain mercilessly. These were the first victims of Gary Ridgway, the Green River murderer. A serial murderer of today, February 18, 1949, saw Gary Ridgway born. Ridgway's early years were somewhat difficult as he often watched his mother battling with his father and family. When the young child witnesses violence at this age, it begins to affect his growing up personality. And that's exactly what occurred when Ridgway, 16, brought a sharp tool and stabbed a 6-year-old youngster in the chest. Thank God, though, the youngster lived and Ridgway was not imprisoned as he was still underage. Ridgway, nonetheless, grew up, graduated from college, and enlisted in the army. Ridgway's life was this. In the morning he would visit the army training field, then at night he would see the bad females and stay out late with them. After leaving the army, his life carried on like this. He would report to work in the morning and return home late to hang out with the bad females. At the time, he was married. His wife, who was married to him then, filed for a divorce as she felt the circumstances unacceptable. They did in fact divorce. He would read the Bible both at home and at work, as, despite all his inner struggle, he was a devoted Christian, dedicated to the Bible. He would even cry at the powerful sermons and the moving phrases he studied from the Bible, in line with the pastor's lessons in church. The crucial point is that Jared was on the cusp of committing his first crime and was beginning to answer legal consequences. He chose to attack a poor female he was out one night at that time. He strangled her and let her go once he completed. He strangled her to the degree of loss of consciousness rather than to death. The girl left Ridgway, then went straight to the police station to tell them that a guy called Gary Ridgway had attacked her and strangled her to nearly kill her. Ridgway was caught and briefly imprisoned before being freed, since in the end he did not commit a crime likely to put him in prison for a considerable term. The cops nowadays are unaware that they are unleashing among the most lethal serial killers on the planet. Two persons were strolling by the Green River in July 1982. The two young men reported a body floating in the river right away to the authorities. When the cops arrived at the scene and dragged the body out of the water, they found Wendy Caulfield, a 16-year-old girl. Actually, some time ago, a report regarding her disappearance had been registered. They determined that someone had attacked her first and then strangled her by the neck till she passed away when they brought the body to the morgue. Still, the cops believed this would be the first and final crime they would discover in this style. However, on August 15th, a police report arrives claiming two corpses in the same river, the Green River. The shock was that as they were looking, they discovered a third body beside the river instead of any evidence that might have helped them. The police had been circling the area of these dead in search of any proof. In any case, the cops transported these remains to the morgue so the morgue could supply the specifics The first corpse belonged to a lady called Marcy Chapman, who was 31 years old at the time. The second body belonged to a woman called Heinous, who was 17 years old. The third body belonged to a woman called Opal Mills, who was 16 years old. These bodies revealed when the police assembled all of them and began to link the events with the first victim they came upon in the Green River, that these, among them, many have characteristics in common. That is, they are all girls, especially the bad girls, who remain out late at night. Before they passed away, every one of them experienced attack. The police dispatched a squad here to increase patrols near the Green River, inspection and surveillance. Indeed, they discovered while they were looking around the river that more than one body had the same destiny as the initial victims, and they were even slain in the same manner. On April 30th, 1983, some females watched their friend Mary Malver getting into her neighbor's automobile to have fun with him. Mary Malver vanished entirely from the radar since then and has not been seen again. Indeed, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, decided to visit the last place Mary Malver was seen after her family went to the police to disclose her missing. The last time we saw her, she got into a car with a man who was between 30 to 40 years old, and his car was a pickup truck. Mary Malver's friends told the FBI when they visited them. This kind of vehicle was rare at the time, hence it reduced the pool of suspects, and Gary Ridgway was among them. Ridgway totally denied knowing the missing girl Mary Malver when the police questioned him. He also denied knowing her and said he didn't know even when they questioned him about the other first victims they discovered in the Green River, anything on this subject. And indeed, the cops departed and went on without any strong proof to support it. Still, the FBI and the cops were closely monitoring him. Gary passed his lie detector test taken by the police in May 1984. Gary was removed from their minds here since the cops found he was honest and started to search for someone else. The authorities started to suspect a guy called Melvin Foster, a cab driver residing close to the Green River, where they discovered all the fatalities at that period. Their misgivings were heightened even more by his criminal past and several incarceration experience. He was constantly phoning the cops with Green River information. As the police began looking at him, they discovered several traits that would define the Green River killer throughout the case. He lives near the Green River, hangs around with nasty ladies, and has a criminal record that is as obvious as day. He said, however, that all the victims recovered in the Green River usually took a cab with him and hung out with him and had nothing to do with the crime. When the cops brought him in to start questioning him and questioned where he obtained the information he was offering. Actually, the cops kept a close eye on him for a lengthy period of time. During that period, he was under observation. A report reaches the police indicating a body discovered in an entirely other location, therefore negating all the suspicions the police had and rendering Melvin Foster innocent. He most certainly won't be here, and it is plainly unreasonable that the victim located in a much different location. Melvin Foster was innocent indeed when they placed him on the lie detector. The case and the mystery of the bodies rising in the Green River motivated the police to work harder. The number of investigators grew more and more. Clearly, a serial murderer, the person who mistreated the corpses and dumped them in the Green River, will cause many more deaths and injuries over the longer they delay in apprehending him. Ted Bundy was a serial killer incarcerated by the police. They apprehended him prior to the Green River's official opening. Just so you know, Ted Bundy was the first serial murderer to murder many Americans, as his victims at the time totaled more than 30. He established the standards for all the serial killers that came after him to kill very huge numbers. By the end of today's narrative, you will realize that the serial murderer exceeded Ted Bundy by far margin. Still, Ted Bundy chose to assist the police based on his knowledge of crime when he learned of the growing count of dead in the Green River, and rightfully, because most serial murderers, their thinking is one, their thoughts are one too. Ted Bundy might indeed assist the FBI in cracking the case. Ted Bundy saw a group of FBI agents approaching his cell one day when he was seated in prison, neither here nor there, waiting for his death sentence to be executed. We heard you wanted to help us with our case. Ted Bundy indeed informed them that the killer would be discovered at the scene of his murders and burial to attack his dead victims. Though it was a little ahead of time, he also informed them a few items that would assist the police in cracking the case. As the number of victims grew, the cops got a complaint alleging 2 additional victims. They vanished entirely from view, and when authorities began looking into the case and visited the last location the 2 victims were seen, they discovered Gary Ridgway was last with them. Gary Ridgway's name so surfaced twice in the lawsuit. When the police heard Gary Ridgway's name once more, they concluded he may be the serial murderer indeed. The cops were working non-stop at that time, as the count of victims and dead they discovered approached 40. The cops headed straight to Gary Ridgway's residence and began looking around for anything that may be useful. They just came onto a sample of his saliva, since they used it on the existing crime scene samples to observe if they match or not. But at that time, DNA testing were unreliable. Hence, the saliva did not match the samples from the crime site. Ridgway stayed free for 10 years instead. But the accuracy of DNA testing significantly raised in 2001, and the mistake rate almost dropped. After gathering a second sample from Ridgway, the police began matching it with the evidence from the crime site. The DNA from Ridgway indeed matched exactly the DNA discovered in the sample from the murder site. Indeed, Gary Ridgway was detained by authorities in the same year and started being confronted with all the 48 victims they had discovered. Oddly, he admitted to the killings while under interrogation, but couldn't recall their faces or identities because of the large quantity of victims he had disposed of. Everyone, including the judge, knowing he would get a death sentence when his trial time arrived. But his attorney did a death move that caused the court to cut the death sentence. Gary Ridgway would cooperate with the authorities and provide all information about the crimes he did, including the specifics of the killings and how he lured and killed them. The attorney informed the judge. Knowing all this knowledge would be more advantageous, the judge concluded, than killing him. Indeed, the knowledge they would get from him would enable the police to better grasp specific actions of serial murderers, therefore guiding them in future crime solving. Gary Ridgway's confession of everything helped the judge to agree to lessen the death sentence. He was seated with a psychologist from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and she began to probe. With police and FBI officials there, they sat with him in front of cameras, and a team of researchers videotaped his remarks for future use. According to Ridgway, making any victim feel protected is the best approach to find her. More than his execution, this would aid him. In fact, the knowledge they would get from him would guide the police to specific actions of serial murderers, so enabling them to solve such cases in the future. Gary Ridgway revealing all helped the judge to agree to commute the death sentence. They brought in a Federal Bureau of Investigation psychologist to meet with him and begin probing him. Sitting alongside him in front of the cameras, FBI agents, a judge, and a team of researchers were present to capture his statements for use in future research. Ridgway said that making any victim feel protected is the best approach to find them. Ridgway's approach was that he would chat to the victim and show her images of his son to have her feel he was a successful and loving father when he would place her next to him in the car. He would then bring the victim to a totally remote location and attack her. He would murder her at last when he completed what he desired. These were simply the ones he recalled. He admitted to the 48 victims and their method of murder. According to investigators, his victims could have topped 71. The total number of recorded vanished from the police department throughout Ridgway's activities. When the police discovered a body buried in a designated site and verified it was him, the court indeed lowered his death sentence and granted 48 life terms without parole. The police verified the body the police discovered was his by means of a specific site. Furthermore, among Gary Ridgway's victims were two additional victims, one aged 15 and the other 16, discovered by the authorities in 2023 and 2024, respectively. Gary Ridgway is still incarcerated, mostly in a Washington state prison, and will remain so till he passes death. Just picture the quantity of life sentences he got. His punishment was 49 lifetime terms without parole. Consequently, he would still have 47 life sentences left even if the judge had opted to cut his sentence by 1 or 2 life terms. And it's not so